Hello. Hey everybody, Dr. K here. Welcome back to my channel. I'm very excited for today's conversation. It's all about, not Alaska, but it's about travel therapy. That was one of the #1 things that you guys wanted to hear about when I did a poll on Instagram. And so today we are going to talk about all things travel therapy. I'm going to try to make this concise. We might have to make a part 1 and a part 2, but hopefully it gives you some basic information. I did travel therapy after I was practicing for a couple of years. I did not do travel therapy right out of the gate as a new grad. So the first thing I wanted to address is I heard that, hey, if you're a new grad, you shouldn't do travel therapy. And I think that's false. I disagree with that. And people probably have their reasons why, but when you graduate, you are a generalist, you are prepared to go and treat. I think if you're going to go into it as a new grad, you should have some expectations for yourself. When somebody is looking for a travel therapist, typically they're trying to meet a need in their facility, whatever that might be. And so maybe they've tried to hire somebody full-time, they can't get someone part-time, can't get someone PRN, contract worker, they can't get anybody. So now we go to a travel therapist, and the idea behind a travel therapist is you are ready to go in day one and hit the ground running. So you don't have as much time dedicated to like an orientation or maybe as much mentorship or onboarding as you might if you were doing a permanent or a permanent job, whether it's part-time or full-time. So have that expectation in mind, that the expectation for you as a future traveler is to hit the ground running. Now, the beauty of it is though, some places are new grad or new traveler friendly. And if you're interested in travel therapy and you're talking with recruiters, I highly recommend asking your recruiter, hey, what places are new grad friendly? What are new traveler friendly? That's what I personally did. Even though I had been practicing for a couple of years before I did travel therapy, I was still like, I was nervous. I was so nervous because I didn't know what to expect. And so talked to my recruiter, found a place that was new grad, new traveler friendly. And so I kind of had a longer orientation. And by longer, I mean, instead of it being like 4 hours and then immediately treating patients, I think it was 2 or 3 days where, you had orientation to the hospital and the EMR system. And then I actually had a mentor that I was able to go through the hospital with and through the caseload of that unit with before taking on my own caseload myself. Another question I get about travel therapy is, where can you do travel therapy at? Or are there travel therapy jobs available? Like, what does that look like? And so there is some flexibility, and the answer is it depends, which nobody likes, but it's true. With travel therapy, when you're talking to a recruiter, and we'll go more into recruitment later or using a recruiter later, you have all of these job opportunities that are out there that are looking for travel therapists. Now, where it gets tricky is if you start putting filters on jobs that you're interested in, it's going to limit the number of available jobs. And so if you're like, hey, I want to make this amount of money, I want to be in this state, and I want to be in this specific city, and I want to be in this specific setting, you might not get that, truthfully. But if you say, hey, I'm willing to go anywhere, I want to make this much money. Okay, that opens it up a little bit more. Or I'm open to any setting. Again, that's your choice. If you're okay holding out for a specific state in a specific city in a specific setting, you do whatever you want to do. I just think it's important to know that sometimes when we hear about like limited jobs available, it's because we've put a lot of filters on what we're looking for. So that's just a personal preference. That's the basics of why someone needs a traveler, expectations of a traveler, and then what travel job availability kind of looks like. But probably the thing you really want to hear about is recruiters. What on earth does that even mean? So there are different recruiting companies, and within each company is a different recruiter. Now, some companies have more of a particular setting available as far as travel jobs. Some might have more available in a certain part of the country based on where they're located. And so a lot of times it's recommended to have 2 or 3 recruiting companies that you're working with in order to kind of have a good span of available travel jobs. So I remember there was one company that I was interviewing, and you should interview recruiting companies. We'll get to that later. And they had a lot of school jobs, which I personally wasn't interested in the school setting. And so I didn't really pursue that company as much as I did some of the other ones that had neuro-related stuff and outpatient and pediatrics. So I'd advise to have multiple recruiting companies that you're working with. I actually have a list of questions that I asked recruiters when I was interviewing them, and I made the list based off of talking to people that have already been doing travel therapy for a while. And there's a bunch of accounts out there that people have been doing it for like years upon years. It doesn't really matter your discipline necessarily. You could still ask these same baseline questions. But I made my list and I asked each company the same questions because I wanted to compare, especially things related to, licensure coverage, because as of this video, there isn't a license compact for occupational therapy. So you do have to get licensed in every state that you get a job in. Now, some companies will pay for that. Some of them will reimburse you for it. Some of them will handle the entire process for you and you just pay them. So there's some options there. Other things like benefits, some companies are able to offer a 401k, other ones are not able to offer that. And so, or dental might look different, or, all these different things. So I had my list of questions and I interviewed different companies, recruiters with a company, and sometimes though, y'all, the recruiter is not a good fit. So like the company might have good benefits and whatnot, but the recruiter, the individual who you will be partnering with to find these sites, it might just not be a good fit. So as an example, I had interviewed with one company, was with this recruiter, and this particular recruiter told me that my expectations were too high, that I would never find a job with the pay that I was looking for, which was not an outrageous number. I wasn't asking for like $4,000 a week. I was just asking for like more than what I was making in the hospital, which I feel like was reasonable. And that I would never get pediatrics, I won't get neuro, he was really pushing the sniff. Because you gotta remember, like, recruiters are getting a kickback from when they place you somewhere, right? So I felt like it was a little red flaggy, did not enjoy that individual. Luckily, I had a friend who was doing travel therapy, loved her recruiter from the same company, and she's like, you need this recruiter. And I said, all right, come on. And so linked up with that recruiter instead, same company, fell in love. She was like, I got you, whatever you want. And she ended up placing me for both of the travel assignments that I had after that. And so I think, you don't have to stay with a recruiter, a particular recruiter, if the vibes are off. Like, just don't do that, because there are some really good recruiters out there. And jokes on that initial recruiter, because I did get my pay that I was looking for in inpatient rehab and neuro, and then I also did pediatrics. So don't settle. If you really want something, I think you either wait it out or see what expectations you can adjust. But I don't particularly appreciate someone telling me that my reasonable expectations are too high and that I should do what they want me to do. Like, that's not why I got in travel therapy. I got in travel therapy to travel and BOT. So as far as duration of travel assignments, so typical travel assignments are 3 months. Sometimes when you are at a place, you may have the option of extending your travel contract. Some contracts at baseline are 6 months long. So for example, when I went to Alaska, because it was so far away, I had a base contract of 6 months, and then I ended up extending to right under a year at 11 months, because in travel therapy, you cannot be in a place longer than 12 months, because then you are no longer considered a travel therapist, you are then considered a permanent therapist. So that's something to keep in mind, is that you can't extend at the same place in the same city for more than 11 months and 29 days. I think I'm going to leave it there because this video is already getting kind of long. Super basics intro to travel therapy. There's definitely more. Let me know what you want to hear more about. If you are interested, if you just want recruiters, I can share my recruiters with you guys. On my website, I'll put it in my caption down below, because that's how you do it on YouTube. But I have a place where you just type in your name and your email address, and it will send you all 3 of the recruiters that I use, their contact information, and the companies they are part of. I do, as a disclaimer, I do get a commission if you end up using them, but if you don't, it's okay. I love all 3 of these recruiters. They worked really hard. I felt like they were interested in me as a therapist and my goals for doing travel therapy and weren't looking to get like a big pay cut. They were very communicative. I really enjoy. They're wonderful people. So if you end up using them or not, that information is available to you. Okay, I'm really going to stop this video now. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions about travel therapy, and then I will see you next time. Be sure to like and subscribe and share with friends if you know someone who would benefit. All right, bye guys.